Hello everyone, my name is Emma Maris, and for my paper I worked on an analysis of different literary and performance editions of Shakespeare's Macbeth between the years 1650 and 1850. In my paper I engage with a number of historical documents including plays, books, playbills, and illustrations that are significant in reflecting the contemporary political and cultural climates between the mid-17th century to the mid-19th century. Though artistic and authorial intentions changed throughout these pieces, there was an underlying theme that was one, fascinated by female authority in the play, specifically through the characters of Lady Macbeth, the Three Witches, and Hecate, and two, sought to depict female power as corruptive or dangerous to patriarchal systems. The scholarly conversation around performances and alterations of Macbeth convey an interest in gender, particularly how power becomes gendered. Scholars such as Marilyn French, Robert Kimbrough, Anne Hermanson, Ayanna Thompson, and Stephen Greenblatt all discuss the problems in demonizing female authority in the play. Even if this was not Shakespeare's original intent, it became part of the history of Macbeth's performances. Some of the most fascinating historical documents I found were parodies of Macbeth. One example includes Thomas de Fay's farce, The Empress of Morocco, published in 1674. This work parodies a play by Elkanah Settle, meant to divert from Settle's success as a playwright. In de Fay's piece, an epilogue with a parody of a scene from Macbeth focusing on the Weird Sisters and Hecate show the women as hypersexual, meant to be comedic rather than powerful and prophetic. In my paper, I discuss how Settle and de Fay's plays engage with themes of the English Civil War, ultimately conflating female authority with political disloyalty and corruption. Perhaps one of the most interesting sources I found at the Newbery was a play titled The Three Conjurers, published in 1763. Here, the three witches appear as male characters representative of corrupt statesmen. The play was meant to support the imprisoned John Wilkes, shown on the right, after publishing radical articles against Lord Bute, the MP, between 1762 and 1763. Lord Bute is shown on the left, and he proposed the cider bill, which called for higher taxes on cider, causing outrage and riots across London. The anonymous author is a supporter of Wilkes, writing this play calling Macbeth McBute to sound like Bute. This is a play warning against political corruption, and though it predominantly engages with male politicians in the 18th century in London, it displays female authority as corrupt as well. In this play, the character Hecate assists McBute's corrupt plans, conflating this magical woman with dishonest political practices. Even in an anti-Bute play that outs political corruption in London, women somehow become part of the blame in this performance. Travesties in the mid-19th century also parodied powerful women in the play. Exaggerating Macbeth was still interesting to audiences in the 1840s and 50s. The witches and Lady Macbeth are once again parodied for being androgynous and powerful, warning against, even if comically, how female stereotypes outside of mother and or wife are dangerous to patriarchal institutions. Other documents I engage with are alterations made to Macbeth, which are performed as Shakespeare's play rather than a parody of it. Perhaps the most influential is Sir William d'Avenant's version, which continues to be performed into the 18th century. D'Avenant makes inclusions in scenes with Lady Macbeth and Lady Macduff, displaying Lady Macbeth as the evil wife and Lady Macduff as the ideal wife. These types of alterations in the play highlight the failure in Scottish governance when powerful women are involved. I conclude with Sarah Siddon's performance of Macbeth, which redefined the role of Lady Macbeth. Unlike other sources I interacted with, Sarah Siddon's changes how female power is performed and perceived. In reviews of her performances, she's said to have made Lady Macbeth a more humanized character, balancing both feminine and terrifying qualities, while previous examples of her performing Lady Macbeth only focus on her fearsome and terrifying qualities. Rather than the Machiavellian wife she's portrayed as in previous adaptations, Lady Macbeth becomes a character audiences sympathize with. These historical documents demonstrate how Shakespeare's reach extends beyond his original plays. Though people continued to perform Shakespeare after his death, there were several other forms of theatrical, literary, and artistic interactions, ranging from satires, political cartoons, musical renditions, notes and observations, and illustrations. And because of these various interactions with Shakespeare, we cannot separate Shakespeare from the political and cultural moments in English history. He has become part of our cultural fabric, and though he does not always appear as a likable playwright, to eliminate the study of Shakespeare would eliminate other critical artistic and literary documents that are significant to understanding theatrical and political moments in history. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you to Professor Heffernan, Professor Knapp, my NLUS colleagues, and the Newberry Library for hosting this wonderful and informative seminar.